Hey everyone, it's Mama Deb, and we are here to talk real talk about mental health. I want to give everybody a couple minutes to get in front of their computer, get logged on, and get my viewership up a little bit. I might be a little bit, self-serving with that, but Um, so just again, excuse the attire because we are in the middle of a heat spell here in the Pacific Northwest. So I am only in a tank top, and that's just about where it's going to stay. So you'll just have to get used to seeing my tattoos and my shoulders. I know it's, you know. All right, y'all. So tonight, as you saw in the description, we're going to be talking about schizophrenia. And when we talk about schizophrenia, I think it really has to be mentioned that schizophrenia has been called the most, or one of the most debilitating mental health disorders that a person can have. It affects 2.8 million people in the United States. 2.8 million people are living with schizophrenia, diagnosed with schizophrenia. That does not count the undiagnosed people out there. And there are a ton of them, people they do believe. I think that the most important thing we can talk about scientific wise is like what makes schizophrenia appear, what happens in the person's brain. And schizophrenics are just like anyone else who has a mental health disorder. There's some processing problem going on in the brain. And there are three parts of the brain, the prefrontal and I just lost the word. And medial, thank you. The prefrontal and medial temporal areas, and then the lobe regions. Those three regions of the brain actually live on dopamine. Dopamine is a naturally occurring substance in the body that helps regulate lots of life's ability to think, maintain blood pressure, vasoconstriction, all kinds of stuff like that. But the problem when you have schizophrenia or develop schizophrenia, those areas of the brain will start overreacting to the dopamine that they run on. And when they start overreacting, they start to have different signs and symptoms. And depending on which type of schizophrenia you have, because there are 5 types, you can experience things from a comatose behavior, almost like a deep depression, but not quite that bad, but you're still withdrawal. You're still looking out the window and not doing anything, to paranoia, which we know most of us are familiar with paranoid schizophrenia, which happens to be the most common type of schizophrenia that has been diagnosed in the United States. And then the other one is just schizophrenia. They don't have a something in front of it to make it to give it an idea what their symptoms would be. So I think that my understanding when I read the article is that schizophrenia, if you have schizophrenia, it is a combination of all of the symptoms, and you can display one or any of the behaviors that are linked to the different types at any given time. So tonight we have a special guest, BB and Leo. They're going to come in tonight and talk. Hi, guys.
Hello.
We're going to talk about what it's like to live with schizophrenia. And then we're also going to talk about what it's like to be the partner and caregiver of someone with schizophrenia, because I know that my husband deals with my mental health disorders in a very specific way that works for me. And I wouldn't think it would work for anybody else, but I'm very interested to see how that works for you guys. So how are you guys doing tonight?
We are good. How are you?
I am excellent. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining me. I really do appreciate it. So my understanding, BB, is that most schizophrenics develop their signs and symptoms to mid to late 20s. Was that the case with you?
My symptoms started developing around my early 20s. Really set off by the time I turned 21.
Okay.
When I went from a junior college to university is when it really kicked in.
Now, do they have any idea that whether or not, because again, my research tells me that schizophrenia can be caused both genetically and trauma-based. Do you have any
Mhm.
idea that there's a genetic factor? Because I do know a little bit of your history, so I know some of it could be trauma based. But is there a genetic link for you?
It does run in my family,
Okay.
only it has only affected the men in my family so far.
Oh wow. Okay, so
So,
you're like the first female.
mhm.
Okay, so it could be a combination of both factors. I would assume so. So why don't you run me through it? Tell me what it's like every day. What's like living with schizophrenia? Because I have no idea. I know what it's like to be depressed, but I mean, give me an idea what it's like to have you to try to function every day.
Um, it's a lot like if you're in, I would describe it as if you're in like a television studio and there are a lot of different TVs or a lot of different scenes going on at once.
Okay.
Like I explained it earlier as my brain is full of cats.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to think a thought, I have to get the cats to pull the sled, like a sled. And once my cats can pull a sled, they will ride the sled to death.
Okay.
But and that manifests in like repetition of songs, repetition of like I watched nothing but Star Trek Voyager for like a year and I didn't want to watch anything else.
Okay. So I see what you're saying about repetition there. That makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And it's really just like the cat thing. Like my thoughts are just like ding 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 ding. And then I have different, I wouldn't call them voices, but they're, Inside Out, the movie.
Yes, I do.
It's
Yes.
like that, but they're all different versions of me. Like they're
Oh. Okay, now I'm getting a picture here. That must make working difficult at best and impossible at worst. So, may I ask the question: Are you able to hold down a full time job?
no.
No. Okay. I kind of figured
We
that was. Go ahead.
we're working with a lawyer to get disability for me.
I'm going to wish you the best of luck because I've been through that route with trying to get disability. It's a very tough road. Leo, what do you find that is the most helpful for BB when she's having what I will refer to as an episode, if that is okay? If it is not, and you want a different term, please let me know. When she's having an episode, what do you do to help her the most? What do you find that helps her the most?
It's it's really difficult to say because every attack can be different.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Sometimes she's more prone to fight. Other times it's more to hide or even to run away.
Oh
Uh, we
wow.
we have a large kind of wooded area, a very overgrown pasture that sits directly across the street from our house. And multiple times she has, in a panicked, PTSD where, it's not her there, it's just the will to survive.
Yes. Okay.
She's run off into that, several times now.
Wow, that must put a big wear and tear on your marriage, and on your relationship. So, how do you guys keep it? Are you really good at communicating? What would you suggest people do when they're faced with something like this? Because I would think that it is not just a BB problem; it's a BB and a Leo problem because you're together and you're a couple, so you face these things together. So, I mean, what would you guys suggest would be the best way to give advice to somebody to help out with those kind of situations?
Um, a lot of the times I would just say that the best thing you could make sure someone doesn't hurt themselves if they're in like a state where it's just the will to survive. You cannot reason for them.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I guess just make sure that make sure they don't hurt themselves and then make sure that once they come out of it that they know that they're safe and that everything will be okay. And it's just mine manifests because of my past traumas and like what happened during my childhood. Mine manifests more like my delusions manifest like someone's out to get me, someone's going to hurt me, someone's going to
Okay.
I have to run, I have to hide, I have to defend myself, like
Okay.
stuff like that. But my Uncle Buck, who wasn't didn't have a tough childhood or anything, his are really like sexuality based. Like
Okay.
he will have a delusion and he will also run through the woods, but it's to chase women, it's to chase naked women.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm getting is that each case is just completely varies on the person that it manifests in. So and I have to say that I'm very grateful that you have Edgar, because I feel like if you didn't have him, then you would be not be in such a good place, because I know you and we're friends, and I think that you're a great person. I think without the love of your husband and his care, I don't think that you would be in that same place. I mean, do you think that is a fair statement to make?
Oh, absolutely. I think without Leo, I really don't know where I would be. I really do think it would be one of those cases where I would be homeless and unmedicated if I didn't have him.
Oh, that just hurt my heart. That hurt my heart, because I know what a fabulous human being you are, and I actually would have. That's the other question that I have, though, is how do you approach that? How do you broach that subject with new friends, with family who hasn't seen you in a while? Or, I mean, do you just come out and say, "Hey, I'm schizophrenic"? I mean, I don't like to do that with my depression, because people judge you. They look at you in a different light once they find that out. So how do you handle that?
With family, I don't really talk about it with family, just because of like personal family reasons. They believe that it's not exactly my fault, but kind of my fault. So, and then with friends, the friends that I've made online have been like, and I don't make friends around here. I don't like the people around where I live.
So noted.
The friends I make online, they're usually really like, oh, cool, okay, like that's fine. Like it hasn't really been an issue.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear, because I think that that's a fear that most of us have that have a mental health disorder, is that people are going to judge or treat us differently, or go, well, why aren't you doing this and why aren't you doing that? Leo, is there a way that you can approach your wife and say, hey, maybe you need to are you taking your meds? Because I know personally, any husband who approaches his wife and says, are you did you miss your meds? He's putting his own life on the line. Okay. And we all know that. But is there a way that you have a system worked out with BB that you can approach her in a way that, like, to be concerned about her medication management without being fearful that she's going to try to rip your head off? Because, that's sometimes what women do. No?
We are very blunt.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're just really open and honest with each other, and that's the best way you guys have found to deal with the situation.
And I'm also really good about taking my medication.
Are you? Good.
I'm terrified of myself.
Well, and I can't even imagine the feelings that actually creates in you, BB, because to be scared of oneself and how one is going to react in certain situations, I can't. I mean, that would put so much paranoia in your life, I would think. And yeah.
I suffer from paranoid delusions, and
okay.
Like every social interaction I have, it's like, everyone's like, oh, I feel like everyone hates me, and that's like a real genuine feeling. People feel like they hate you, but like imagine like you cannot talk yourself out of it. Like you really genuinely believe that the people who say they love you hate you.
Oh my gosh.
And you don't have any evidence. You can't prove it.
But it's something you feel.
Yeah, it's something that's there. It's yeah.
Wow. That almost makes me want to cry
No.
because I can't imagine that kind of feeling when you feel you're looking at the world and saying, well, he says he loves me or she says she loves me, but truly they don't. They hate me. They're just saying it to pacify me, or because my thought process would be because they know I have a mental health disorder, they're just trying to not rock the boat. And that's a very difficult reality to live in my opinion.
Mhm.
So is there anything that you like avoid, like alcohol or anything like that with the medications you're taking? Because I'm going to say, I assume you are on an antipsychotic. I don't know if that is correct or not, but
I'm on lots of stuff.
okay.
Oh, I don't want to get into my what my medications
No,
are.
you don't have to do that at all.
But here's my bag.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
This
Okay.
is a 2-gallon bag.
Okay. So are there medications that they give you? I assume they gave you these specific medications for your schizophrenia. Now, are there supplements? They say, hey, take this because it'll help process or help your body break down that medication more. Do they recommend vitamins? Do they say stay away from alcohol? What are some of the things that they tell you?
They do tell me to stay away from alcohol, but I don't personally listen.
Okay.
That don't do as I do, children. Do as the doctor says. Anyway, they do tell you to stay away from alcohol. They do tell me to take your medications regularly. I'm also on medicine for blood pressure, so I have to take that pretty consistently, or I feel weird.
Oh, I bet.
And I do have a multivitamin. It's actually a prenatal that she recommended.
Well, that kind of makes sense to me though, because it's got a lot of the extra stuff that you're going to need, and stuff that, if my understanding is correctly, there are things that you could that will pass through the barriers in our body and will be readily used and broken down in an easier manner. So that would kind of make sense to me. Do you find that? Do they think that your high blood pressure is related to your schizophrenia? Because I would feel like with paranoid delusions, that might up your blood pressure a bit.
I probably think, yeah, probably. But I'm also fat. So.
Well, okay. That wasn't something I was going to say, but.
I mean, it's true. I'm fat. I have high blood pressure.
But is that also a genetic thing for you? Did your family have, a lot of your
Yeah.
family members have? Okay. So now, Edgar, Leo, what do you do when you find that she's in the midst of an episode and she decides she's leaving and she's across in the pasture? I would think if you chase after her, it's going to feed into her delusions. But if you leave her out there alone, you're like, I'm leaving my wife out there alone and she can't fend for herself right now. So how do you handle those situations?
Mostly follow from a safe distance and wait for her to come out of it. That is all you can really do.
Wow.
Try to make yourself as non-threatening as possible,
Wow.
Speaking in soft, calm, even tones, showing your hands, that. But I mean, it's kind of like a hostage situation, except
Yeah.
the hostage taker is
Myself.
herself.
Yeah.
Her illness.
That has got to be very hard for you to watch as a husband, to watch, the woman that you love go through something like that and truly be almost to the point where you're helpless. I mean, that would be what my feeling would be, is that I'd be feeling pretty helpless. But I love the way you say it. You're like, okay, you know what? This is what I do. I know I'm going to feed into this, and this is how I protect her in the very best way I can. And I think that that's something that all of the viewers out there, or anybody who's watching this or watches it in the future, really stop and think about that. If you have friends who are schizophrenic and they have these episodes, the worst thing you can do is actually chase them. The worst thing you can do is try to tackle them and hold them down, because you may think that you're helping, but in actuality, you're feeding into their delusions, and that's got to make everything 150 times worse.
I'll let you in on the joke that he just told me.
Okay.
It was when my mother, she's still grappling with me being schizophrenic, but when we first started telling her that I have these delusions and I get swept up in like these episodes and stuff like that, she was like, "Well, I don't want to get hurt, so I guess I'll just tackle her." And I'm like, "But my mother is 2 inches shorter than I am and weighs 200 pounds less than I do."
So that puts her at my height because I'm only 5'2". And okay, well, I don't think she's going to be very successful at that.
Just imagine her trying and bouncing off of me.
It's like picking a fight with an NFL lineman.
You know what?
I'm
I'm going to have to agree with you there. So now, Leo, did you know that she was schizophrenic before you married her?
No, everything manifested after we got
married.
married.
After you got married. Wow. Holy crud. Talk about a life adjustment, huh?
And it also onset at a time where we had moved away, going to university, and we were also kind of away from our support network as well.
Oh, fantastic. How much more fun could you have had with this manifesting, huh? Yeah. So how did you do that? How did you stay together as a couple and be away from the family? You needed family support, Leo, because you're dealing with something that is out of your realm. This is brand new. As much as BB needed it, you needed it as well. So how did you deal with that?
We didn't. We didn't know how. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know anything. We fought a lot. It was rough. And then I started getting into therapy and stuff started making sense, and it was wow. It was just.
Was it truly like, as much as the schizophrenia coming out and showing itself was life altering, was getting into therapy and getting things regulated also that life altering, that things could settle down and maybe give you some sense of normality?
We are like still, we're still fresh into normality. Like it's still new. Like normality probably started whenever I met you guys.
Oh, okay.
It's new.
So this is a new thing for you. Well, then, gosh, that's awesome. I want to be the first one or one of the first to congratulate you on that, because I think like with any other mental health disorder, but especially with something like schizophrenia that can be so debilitating, making those moves to trust the doctor and say, hey, I'm having these delusions, and hope. I mean, I can't imagine how scared you must have been. Okay, I'm going to tell the doctor I'm having all these delusions. They're going to lock me up in a padded cell, because that would be my actual first thought. It was, wasn't it? Okay.
I was. I was locked up in a padded cell.
Okay. Do you want to talk about that, or would you rather I moved on?
Yeah, we could talk about it. What had happened was I started having we have a really dark sense of humor.
Yeah.
I know that about you. Mm-hmm.
It's a coping mechanism.
It was when all this was going on and I just felt alone, and I didn't, because he didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. And it was just a very isolating time. So I started having suicidal ideation. So I went into I told my therapist, and they were like, well, now you're not allowed to leave. So,
oh, yay. Oh.
And it's Jen, what am I? I just lost. It's Gen Z, I think. I think I'm Gen Z. It's called a grippy sock vacation.
Oh, yes. I think it is Gen Z. You're correct. A grippy sock. I get that. And I understand the reference, my dear. I do understand the reference. So, how did that affect you, though? Were you able to trust your therapist after that, or did you have to find a new one? Because I know me, I would have felt a little betrayed by her not allowing me to leave, even though she had no choice in that time, in that moment.
Yeah, I did find a new therapist, but it was more of didn't want to go to um I didn't want to go to my appointments anymore.
Okay.
I wanted to to do appointments online.
Okay. And does that work for you?
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
So with my brief time this is really when the schizophrenia kicked off. When I went into the what's the word? Psychiatric hospital.
Okay.
And they make they're like, hey, you got to deal with some stuff
Uh-huh.
before we can let you out. So they open this whole Pandora's box of, am I allowed to swear?
Yes, ma'am.
Pandora's box of fuck. And they're just like, okay, now sort it out. So just imagine it's
Wow.
almost like everything just broke. And then surprise, surprise, you're now schizophrenic. And I
Wow.
forgot who I was for a while. I
Mhm.
forgot what I was doing there. I forgot everyone. Like I remembered Edgar. I mean Leo. I remembered his name is Edgar.
Yeah.
I remembered Edgar. And I kind of remembered my mom. But that's it. I was just in this room and I wasn't really combative, but I wouldn't let anyone near me.
Mhm.
I don't remember a lot of what went on. But I do remember my therapist, and this is relevant. She had very long, silvery gray hair. And I
Mhm.
remember she stayed with me through that entire time, which is like 12 hours of like a severe mental breakdown.
Mhm.
And she was just talking me through it. And I would be like, well, this is this, and this is this, and this is this. And she's like, Brittany, that's not, no. Like, that's not,
Okay.
no.
Yeah.
And now, whenever I am feeling a little episode-y, I guess we'll call it,
Okay.
I will sometimes see a silvery gray cat. And
Ah.
it's the same color as her hair. So it sometimes it manifests in positive ways. Like if you're really, really trying, like I am not gonna have an episode right now. I'm not gonna do this. And you like put both your feet on the floor and you
Mhm.
ground yourself
Mhm.
and stuff like that. Sometimes it's just instead of a full episode, your whole body. It's like when your feet fell asleep, but it's your whole body, but it doesn't hurt. It just feels like that.
Okay, kind of numb or tingly type thing.
Yeah,
Is that
like
what you're referring to? Okay. So once they had you and they let you out of the psychiatric hospital, did you now? I'm sure that they started a bunch of medications on when you were in there, but did you have to go through like really a lot of trial and errors before you got the exact cocktail that works the best for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Trial and error.
a lot of trial. Like, what are we talking? We talking like I don't know how it works with schizophrenic meds. I know that with depression meds, you have to give it 3 or 4 weeks to see if it reaches full potential. Is it something like that time frame before they could say, oh, it's not working or it is working?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
wow.
little longer.
Okay.
My therapist usually goes 6 weeks
Okay.
before seeing whether or not a medication will really work. And then sometimes with like the bigger medications, I'm no longer on this, but I used to be on lithium carbonate.
Okay.
And we had to let that be in my system for a while to see if that really helped.
Okay.
And then I had a trigger warning. I had a miscarriage, so that's why we stopped the lithium carbonate.
Okay.
Because before I knew I had a miscarriage, I was pregnant, and I was like, "Oh, I can't take this anymore."
Okay. Okay.
Pregnant.
Yeah, that's not going to work out well. Well, I'm really sorry to hear that because that actually, I would think a life event like that could really make you backslide. I know that it would make me backslide.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how did you guys deal with that? If you don't mind my asking, if it's too personal, tell me it's too personal. But how did you guys deal with that as a couple?
I I think for like 2 days, I got really depressed. And it wasn't even like I was depressed because I felt a connection to like a child inside me or anything. It was more depressed because it's like, this is going to sound bad.
I'm sure it's not.
And it's not bad, but it's like, I have to have sex again? And it's not like that.
No, I know.
Appropriated sex is different than fun sex.
Yes. No, I totally understand what you're saying. I totally get it. I would think that because I've done a similar walk to what you were just explaining, that I really, for me, I blamed my illness. I'm like, if I wasn't this way, then maybe this wouldn't have happened. And that, again, put me in a spiral. And I think that that's something that it would play into this really fairly big, because it's emotional and it's very personal. And yet, it's, as a woman, I would think you almost can't help but blame yourself. What did you do wrong and all of that? So, I mean, that pushed an additional strain on your marriage that you really didn't need at that point in time, to be honest, or any time,
I honestly thought it was because of my weight. I thought and that was I think the main reason I felt depressed, because I'm like, oh, I smothered it. I crushed it. That's why.
Oh, sweetheart. Oh.
But and because right after that your hormones are crazy. I think that's why, because I knew I was pregnant for 4 days.
Okay.
And then I had a miscarriage. So it wasn't like I had developed a bond or like a connection. It was more like, oh wow, I have to eat vegetables now.
So do they recommend that you not try to get pregnant again because of your meds, or do they recommend that you let them know ahead of time so they can plan accordingly? Or
all the medicine that I'm on right now is perfectly safe for pregnancy, but I have been I don't know the word I'm looking for. I have been told many times that I may want to delay having a child until I'm more stable.
Okay.
Or it's been thrown at me like the possibility of you might not be able to ever have a child because you need to know if the child you're holding is real. Or if you left him in the car seat, because I'm so forgetful.
I did not even think of that, BB. That brings up a really good and interesting point, because that's a real concern, with what goes on with you. It is a real concern. If you are having a hard time telling what's real and what's not, I mean, I don't know, how could you? I couldn't trust myself to do it. I just couldn't. And that's a rough one. Ooh, that is a rough one. I didn't even think about it like that. Wow. So Leah, what do you do when you see her starting towards, and I'm sure there are warning signs, and she's starting to get that way, and you're like, oh, hell, here we go again. I'm sure that's the first thing, because that's what I would think, and not in no way, shape, or form am I being mean about it. That's just what I would think, initially. How do you prepare yourself? How do you say like, okay, here we go. It's all right. How do you prepare yourself for what you know is going to happen? Do you have to give yourself like a talk up or a talk down, or is there things you do?
Just more take a deep breath, gather your strength, and once more into the breach,
Yeah. So you really do. You're like, okay, this is going to happen again, and I know what I need to do, and we're just going to do it. Well, I tell you what, I think that man might love you.
I love him. Oh, okay. I was going to hold his hand and grab the
cigarette. You grabbed the cigarette, didn't you? Oh, God.
Did I burn you?
No, you tossed it right in the...
Oh, God, that was almost cute. I'm sorry.
He chucked it in the floor so it wouldn't burn.
So, When I was doing my research, I found that they were making very big distinctions, BB, between therapy and behavioral therapy. Do you have to engage in both, or you just do one?
Could you explain the difference?
I believe, and I could be completely wrong, so somebody please correct me if I am wrong, but I believe therapy, is where we go and we talk about our issues and we try to get closure with those issues, where behavioral therapy is more like appropriate responses to things that happen, a way to say things or a way to express yourself that you might not have learned, like you should have because of some trauma or something like that. So do you have to do both, or do you just do one?
I do both, but it's the same person.
Okay. Oh, that makes it nice though.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
A lot of the time, and I'm sure other neurodivergent or like it's similar to like autism, where you can be in a situation and like your reaction is completely inappropriate to everyone else's reaction. It's like I could say something about my childhood or something awful that happens, and the whole time I'm laughing, and everyone else around me is like, tears.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I actually experienced that very thing with you, and it was quite. I was shocked. I was shocked with what you told me. And I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to say here? And you did. You laughed. You just laughed, and I was like, wow. Okay, well, she's okay. I'm okay, I guess. And we'll work through it as friends later if there needs to be something to work through. But so I mean that kind of makes sense when we were talking about you're delusional and things like that. So things that you do to cope with a situation that comes in their past might be skewed because of the way things are processed in your brain. I mean, that makes sense to me. So now, what do you do? What do you do about your mom? You said your mom isn't really into this whole thing. Like she thinks, what does she think? She think you're making it up, or if you don't mind talking about it?
I don't mind talking about it. She loves me. Yeah, she loves me very, very much, but it's implied that I wouldn't be so severely mentally ill if I were a better Christian.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, alrighty then.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the other part, she said, I just don't want it to be real. I want this to be a sickness that you can get over, not something for the rest of your life. And I'm like, well, me too, but
Wow. So I'm going to tackle the first one first, because the second one first. That is true. There is no cure for schizophrenia. The only thing that they say is that if you manage your meds and you do your therapy and you do put the work in, that you can live a full and effective life. I think the thing that people need to understand is full and effective is different from me to you. So what you find full and effective or full and fulfilling or whatever the case may be, that's you, and that's what you need to. And I think that as other people come in and out of your life, or people see you out in public or whatever, the thing is, like, what I'm getting here is big time. Do not be judgmental. You do not know what's going on in that person's head that particular day. And we don't know if BB's got her 9 cats in a row and they're tugging the sleigh, or if they're running around like a bunch of wild kitties going nuts, So I think being kind and watching the way that you approach things, it would be a helpful thing for us to know as loved ones or friends to someone who is schizophrenic.
I have some resources that my therapist gave me. I should have sent them to you before. Maybe I'll just send them to you and you can post them.
Absolutely. I will post them. Absolutely. Because that's something that I really do try to do, is make sure that we get, if people, hear this and they think somebody they know is schizophrenic or whatever, not only to give them an idea of how to deal with these types of things and maybe let them know they're not alone, but just to also get them, to put them, to give them an idea of where to go to get help for themselves or for a loved one. The other thing is, let's go back to that second thing. That first thing. All right. So I don't know that it matters one way or another, but I am all about truth and honesty and helping other people. So I will truly tell you that um, BB, is it okay if I disclose where we met?
Yeah.
Okay. BB and I belong to and met on a chat group for the atheist community, because both of us are in that place where that's where we are and that's how we believe now. And we've discussed things about how churches or religious people really kind of twist that. If you something is wrong with you, well, if you believed more in God, or you prayed harder, or you were a better Christian, you wouldn't be having these problems. So I'm here to say, and nobody needs me to, anybody watching from my community doesn't need me to say this, but scientifically, that's horseshit. Okay? Because whether you have a Christian brain or an atheist brain, your brain's going to be the same brain that it is, Miss BB, and they're going to have these issues. And it hurts me as a woman to hear that a mother would say that to her child. However, I have probably thought those thoughts myself when I was still indoctrinated in the church and all of that. But how do you handle that when you believe a certain way and your mom's like, you just need to be a better Christian? I mean, and pray the schizophrenia away. What do you say to that? How do you handle that?
I'm in the closet. She doesn't know I'm not a Christian.
Oh shit! I think I just blew the door wide open. Hopefully she's not watching this tonight.
Bro,
Sorry.
I'm getting floppy with keeping it a secret. Like, it's just, I've reached the point. I'm 25. I can't live to make my mom comfortable anymore.
That's correct.
And if she sees it, and it breaks my heart, because she's going to see it as I'm losing my daughter. She's going to go to eternal torment and I have to save her, but I'll no longer be her daughter. I'll become a mission.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is a powerful statement right there, because that is exactly what's going to happen. I'm very sorry to hear that that's going to happen, but I know that that's exactly what has happened with me as well. But I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I really wouldn't. But like you said, you're 25 and you know your own mind and your own beliefs now. And the thing is, you're right. Why should you have to try to make your mom comfortable? You're having a hard enough time being comfortable in your own brain and your own body. Why put that extra stress on yourself? Do you think that actually helps you when you come to those types of realizations where you're like, I just need to be here within me, being me, and being happy being me? Does that kind of maybe relieve a little bit of pressure that could bring on an episode?
Yeah, yes. A lot of that, she inadvertently helps me because I function off of spite.
Okay.
So it's like, oh, you're not gonna accept me as I am? Well, I'm gonna.
Oh, girl, the strength in you, the strength I see in you, my friend, is amazing. Amazing. Because despite everything that has been thrown at you, and you know what, I know a lot of the crap has been just straight up shit. And all of it's gotten thrown at you, and then you develop schizophrenia, and you're still coming out smiling and making the world a happy place and a better place for being in it. And you've managed to find and marry and be married to the love of your life. I mean, I say you're winning the game, sis. I really do. I say you are absolutely winning the game.
I will win it or it will die.
Well, I think that's pretty much all of us. But if there's any thoughts or suggestions or anything like that you could give to someone who thinks that they are schizophrenic, what would it be?
Basically go to a medical professional and try more than one medical professional, because some of them will be like, it's not this because you don't have this. But I had singular symptoms before I had the whole
gamut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not only just like symptoms where it's delusions and paranoia and hallucinations and stuff like that. Like, if this is like the middle, right? Mm-hmm. There are positive and then there are negative.
Okay.
The positive symptoms are the things that are like hallucination. They add to it.
Okay.
Hallucinations, the extra pizzazz my brain likes to throw out there.
Yes.
And negative symptoms are the things that it takes away from you. Sometimes I don't feel emotion. I really don't.
Okay.
Like I'm completely dead to the world. Like I can look into like even my dog's eyes and I don't feel anything.
Okay.
And it's just because and that's distressing. And it's just because at that point my brain's like, today we don't feel. Tomorrow you're gonna feel so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel sometimes like it's a makeup day? Like yesterday you were not feeling anything, and tomorrow, today you're like, geez, Louise, could we turn off the feelings again?
I feel all the things.
Yes. Oh, that's lovely. I'm thinking, that's probably why they say that this disease is probably one of the most, if not the most, difficult mental health disorder to deal with, because it runs you the whole gamut. I mean, I'm sitting here listening to you going, my God, it's like your life is like a damn roller coaster ride.
Hey.
Yeah, and it's a good thing you like roller coasters. It's a darn good thing, huh? And I can see why this would be so debilitating for people, and it would be so difficult to deal with and be successful in life in general, but let alone to be successful in a marriage, because marriage is hard. Anybody who tells you they got a perfect marriage are lying. We all know that, because you have fights, you have arguments. That's just something that happens. Do you, Leo, ever find yourself being a little timid around her in regards to arguing or screaming or anything like that, because you're afraid that it might set something off? Yeah. I think that would be something that I would be aware of too. I would be like, oh, is this really worth risking that? And I mean, I don't even have the words to express how impressed I am with you two. Because you see, oh, I'm sorry. Are you going to say something, Leo?
Oh no, I was about to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. I
No.
was formulating.
Oh, okay. Well, I like I said, I just have to tell you how impressed I am, because I've known you guys for a little while now, not very long, but a little while, and you're always so much fun, and you always are just it's never, even when we just have BB in to chat or whatever, Leo's right there, and it's obviously a good group and a good coupling, and you guys are thriving with each other, which in the face of as much diversity as you have had, that's amazing to me. And I'm just trying to tell you, how impressed I am with you, because first off, at 25, I don't know many 25-year-olds who have their crap together enough to be able to say, this is what I'm dealing with and this is how I'm dealing with it. And it is quite it's quite impressive to me. So someone's asking, like, do you have like a common denominator for some of your hallucinations or your delusions? Do they all have a common factor? Like you were saying, your Uncle Buck, chases naked women in the forest. Are yours commonly like, I'm going to be hurt and I need to protect myself? Is that where you go with it most of the time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All of them, this is kind of dark, but all of them are surrounding, man, this is really dark. More often than not, and when I say more often than not, I mean every single one of them, I believe I'm about to be sexually assaulted.
Okay.
Like the big R word. Like I have to protect myself from that.
Okay. And so that, again, on top of that, that's just, now I'm understanding a whole lot more why Edgar is saying that he has to approach hands up, very softly, step softly, because he can't, any other type of action would absolutely send you overboard and send you deeper into your delusion. And in worst case scenario, you could actually hurt him. Because, at that point, you're moving and doing things that are usually not humanly possible for women to do or what have you, as far as, I mean, strength-wise. So that is That's kind of scary. But it does unfortunately lend itself to credibility for the research that I read that said that delusions are usually based upon some form of an event. And that's unfortunate. I'm sorry that you ever had to go through anything like that.
The craziest it ever got, like we're talking about my experience so that people don't feel alone.
Yes.
And I'd like to preface this with, I'm a completely normal person. Like I have feelings and thoughts, and this is everything I feel like people look at me and they're like, oh, hello, tender child, everything's fine. And I'm like, I'm a human being. Like, sometimes I get spicy, you know? Like, that's just it. But, like, the worst it ever got, and this was when it first started happening, and I was completely unmedicated. I didn't know what was going on. I was having a dream, which your dreams are very vivid with schizophrenia.
Okay.
I was having a dream and I woke up choking him.
Yep. I woke up strangling me.
Like
that's bad. That is bad. I bet you shortly thereafter you started considering medication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was like that's a spicy meatball.
Yeah, I think so, huh?
We thought it was just PTSD.
That was
That was before we even knew where to.
Yeah, what was really going on? It was at the very beginning. It was probably like the first thing that happened without my consent. Like my body did something.
Yes.
Without me at the wheel.
No, and I understand what you're saying. Absolutely, because that's part of the problem with schizophrenia is that you're not always at the wheel. You're acting in a way that you believe is absolutely 100% on point, and there's stuff going on around you that you need to act this way, and in actuality, it's not. So, I mean, that's a beast of a disease because it controls your thought, not only your thoughts but your actions as well, and it's got to be tiresome. Is the best word that I can come up with is tiresome. Yes, exactly. Oh, I believe it. And
like there's positive stuff. Like I always have even now I always have like background thoughts, almost like a radio going on in the back of my head, or like several different radio stations. And in the morning when I wake up, it isn't organized. Like it doesn't have a theme. It's just like stuff from my dreams or stuff from the day before. So like I'll hear pieces of like TV, or I'll hear Edgar talking, or I'll hear like something else. And since I started hanging out with the atheist community, I'll wake up to huzzah! Or just stuff like that.
That is absolutely fantastic, and I'm fairly certain that he will be very, very happy to hear that. So, what other? We had a question. What other mental health disorders are you dealing with? We know you have schizophrenia, and we know you have PTSD. Is there other stuff there too?
I have CPTSD, which is complex because it's multiple stuff. I have CPT that acronym. I have schizophrenia. We believe I'm on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
But again, I was diagnosed with major depression, something anxiety disorder. It meant very bad.
It's you're probably clinically diagnosed with major depressive and antisocial anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
And the reason that I can say that is because I was also diagnosed with that. Yeah. So that's the bad one. That's the one that just is so much fun, right? So you're dealing with all of that. Then you're going to color me 6 times, 6 ways to Sunday on how impressed I am with that, what kind of a human being you are, because you're amazing. You're absolutely amazing. And I'm very honored and very pleased to be able to call you friend. And you as well, Leo, with that saucy beard back there. Love the beard. So we are going to head off here in a couple minutes. Are there any closing thoughts that you want to share with anyone, either one of you? Anything you want to say?
I guess again, I'm just a normal gal. Like, it just sometimes stuff is weird, and I get a lot of the stuff you don't get diagnosed with probably exactly what you have, because a lot of the stuff mimics each other.
Yes.
A lot of stuff manifests in the same way. So I could have other stuff going on, but everything's just like, well, yeah, that's a symptom of schizophrenia. So it's your schizophrenia. And we have a good medication. That's something I want to say.
Yes.
Medication.
And it's working well for you?
Mm-hmm.
I said, is it working well for you?
Yes, it is very well. I went from completely non-functional to like kind of sort of functional. And I guess the big thing is there are things like being, you don't have to be gentle and coddling and tender to your friends with schizophrenia, but like understanding that they're going to forget things frequently because there are like things just bouncing around in there that they got 50 other things going on at the same time. And so a lot of like my old friends used to get angry with me because I would constantly ask what time, what day, when we were doing something. And it's like, if you want me there, you got to tell me.
Yeah.
And it's not asking to like go the extra step. It's just asking to understand that this is a disease. This is a limitation. It's like if I had diabetes or we're in a wheelchair, everything is in here.
Yeah.
So, did you have
Yeah. Wanted to kind of, I guess, riff on that and some stuff you said earlier, Deb, that I was I guess going to commend you for, because earlier you really did hit the nail on the head. You were talking about just trust, love, and understanding. That really is the key to the kingdom when you're dealing with stuff like this. It took me longer than I'm comfortable or care to admit that, it took me longer to understand that.
Yeah.
And it would, in the way it would, affect our marriage and me, and combined with my own stresses, I wasn't very understanding, or I was an asshole. I could be an asshole.
Can't we all?
But it took me longer than I care to admit to really learn that. It's about understanding and trust. When she would say that I can't do something, it would just boggle my mind. Like, I can make myself do things I want to do. I don't want to do all the time. How can you not physically make yourself do something? And it's because she can't get all those cats going in one direction.
That's right.
It just wouldn't click. Ignorant oaf that I was.
No, you're fine. It's hard. It's like someone can make themselves do something they don't want to. You can override stuff sometimes. And I can override stuff a lot, but it's just sometimes I don't have that ability.
Yeah.
Sometimes if I look at something and I'm like, I don't want to do this, I physically cannot make myself do it. And you feel you feel like a failure. You feel like, why
Oh.
can't I do this? It's just one thing. It'll take 2 minutes, but your whole body is revolting. Your
Mhm.
whole body is like, it's a mutiny. It's
That's actually very well said. It's a mutiny because they're like, I don't care that you think you're a failure. I'm not doing it. And I can understand to a point. I can't understand completely because I don't have that disease. But I will tell you this, Phoebe, with what you said about you being a real person. I have this thing that I like to say, and I like to say that I I have depression. Depression does not have me. So, BB, you are my friend who happens to have schizophrenia. You're not my schizophrenic friend, if that makes sense. Because above all else, and that should be something that we should all take away from this, is above all else, we're all human beings. We might have little neurodivergencies going on in our brains, or maybe we have a physical medical problem, but we're all human beings and we all need to be treated in such a manner with respect and dignity and love for each other, because that's so important. And it's one of the reasons I started this channel, is because I wanted people to know they aren't alone. And I wanted people to understand that there are people out here who really want to help and understand you. And sometimes, honestly, the best thing that we can do for our friends who have mental health disorders is treat them like a normal human being. Don't walk around with kid gloves on all the time and think, oh, what's going to happen next? Well, whatever happens, happens, and we're going to deal with it then. But let's not forget that this person is a living, breathing human being who has thoughts, feelings, and issues going on, and we need to respect and love them. I think that's pretty much what you wanted to say.
Mhm.
Okay. So it is over an hour now. So y'all, please come join me at the after party. It starts at 7:15 on this channel, on the stream, or whatever. My producer Beck set it up. As always, I want to thank you guys so very much for joining me and sharing your story. I know it's not easy, but I really do appreciate you getting on board with me to try to really take away the stigma of mental health disorders, because we're all in this together and we ain't getting out alone. So we're not getting out of it alive. So we might as well be together and enjoy ourselves while we're here. So as always, I'd like to thank my producer Beck and thank my guests for making me look a heck of a lot better than I really do. And I will remember, you guys, be kind to yourselves, and you're perfect just the way you are. See you later. Bye-bye.